welcome to Black Economics TV. We have with us today Juliet Coley Bremer, BCAe, which I'm sure she's going to tell us what that means in a minute, but she has been a long-time educator. She's had senior management positions in schools. She's also a publisher, helping young people to publish their own books. And she is winning awards. She's doing amazing things as an activist. And I'd like to introduce you now, Juliet. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So tell us about the highlights of your achievement. What are you doing at the moment?
At the moment, okay, so at the moment, just completed the first ever Children's Black Book Fair, where we celebrate Black children writers and we also celebrate Black children storytellers. Basically, it's about representation, you know, the lack of representation of people that look like me, you know, Black and brown children in books. So the Centre of Literacy for Primary Education did a report when I first started publishing books, and it was 1% of Black children that were featured on the cover of books.
Wow.
Now, actually, no, not Black children. It was racially minoritized children.
Oh, so any
Black,
children of
brown,
color.
so anybody. Now, today, I think it's 14%. So it's better. But when you look at the playgrounds and the color of the children in the playgrounds, why is it that the books that are in those schools don't look like them? So I'm doing that work. I just recently set up a charity with three other people, and I'm a director of this charity called Perm Inc. And it stands for Permanently Included. So I live in a borough, Hackney, where 99% of the schools are good and outstanding now, not when I was being educated. However, Hackney is the top of the inner London schools when it comes to children being fixed term or permanently excluded. Really? So in 22-23, they excluded 2,700 children and permanently excluded 33 children. And we know the ratio when it comes to Black children and in terms of the numbers on that list. So I'm working with a group of people to ensure that children are permanently included in education. And we're working on a campaign, Educating Hackney, where we're looking at children that have been excluded and the behaviour policies of these schools, primarily in Hackney for secondary schools, it's academies. So we're looking at their behaviour policies that are discriminatory when it comes to our children. So when you look at why children have been excluded at the moment, it's not like they're carrying a knife into school, boom, they're out. It is persistent disruptive behaviour. And that can mean if your behaviour policy says that you brushed past someone on the stairs, you know, you get an infraction. If you talk in the line, you get an infraction. So all that around children's mental health and well-being is atrocious. So we're working on a national campaign. I took a deputation with a team of my colleagues, Perm Inc., to full Hackney Council meeting and addressed all of the councillors from Hackney with this issue and what was going on. Because I've been working with children to support them in the exclusion meetings. Well, you know, I supported a parent whose child had a special need and was permanently excluded from school for persistent disruptive behaviour. And prior to the meeting, they sent her a file of 297 pages. And this woman, English was her second language. So straight away, how can that be fair? No one from the authority was there to represent. I was there. I had a week to read the file, to kind of work out what's going on. Even the incident that led to the permanent exclusion wasn't even in the file. But they get away with it. So no more exclusions. Hackney actually put out a document called No More Exclusions, or No Need to Exclude, in 2015 and launched it, big fanfare and nothing. So we're challenging them on that. I love my borough. I love where I live. You know, I think when it comes to youth services, it's great, but you cannot have two tales in one city where the schools are 99% good and outstanding, yet the exclusions are right up there. Something's wrong. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm also on Hackney's board of improving outcomes for Black children and young people. So we know that Child Q happened in Hackney. Child X, little boy that was run down by the police van with a toy, because he had a toy gun, all those kind of issues. I'm working to support families and parents around that. I have set up a stop shop with a group of people where the first Saturday of the month, parents can come, families can come, the community can come, and that's communities of all colours. If they've got an issue around education, mental health, or police reducing harm, they can come and get signposted to get support. So I'm a little bit of a little activist at the moment.
That's really good. And thank you for doing that, because it just goes to show there are things going on in these educational establishments which sometimes the schools or colleges get away with. If people don't challenge them, they just proceed on their merry way, and it's not fair on the students.
Well, my background is education. I spent 21 years, sorry, I'm out of breath. Whew. My background is education. I spent 21 years working in the school. So I've lived the experience. When I started this school, it required improvement. The children in the playground, I had to go out in the playground and drag them in the classroom to teach. So it was very, very challenging. And in that period, it was one school I spent most of my career with, in fact, all of my career. And
really?
school, yeah, I started off, this was my teaching practice school. So from university, I actually stole someone's placement. She'd gone to Barbados. I didn't want to travel far to go somewhere. I said, oh, why can't I go there? I've got children. And the lecturer gave me this school. And this is a school that employed me. I became an English teacher. I became deputy head of year, assistant head, deputy head, rising to senior deputy head until I became unwell. So I was always the bridesmaid and never got to be the bride, i.e. the head teacher, due to ill health. But I learned a lot in that school. I learned about children that came from an under-resourced background. The school was in Tottenham. I had experiences where children would, come into school and get mugged for their phones. And by taking their phones, people would strip them. So they walk into school practically naked.
Oh.
Because people had stolen their phones. I was at a school where, gun and knife crime was a big issue within the community, and helped to create campaigns with the children that ended up getting the school MBE, which was the Queen's Award, which was equivalent to an MBE. So the children grew with us as we built the school. I led Ofsted 3 times in a row. We were Ofsted Outstanding. When the riots started in Tottenham, we created a campaign called Everybody Dreams, which is a song for Tottenham, which changed the feeling of the community. The children would go out, speak to the shopkeepers, talk to the community members, speak to Spurs. And we actually did a campaign called Everybody Dreams, which is a song for Tottenham, created a song which ended up at number 33 in the iTunes charts.
Wow.
Children end up on top of, some of them ended up as backing singers for Stormzy on Top of the Pops. Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics heard the song on YouTube, called me up in my office saying, hey, is this Juliet? My name's Dave Stewart. I said, yeah, whatever. Put the phone down. He rings back, don't put the phone down, don't put the phone down. And he took the song, he mixed it in his studio, and then came over to the UK and invited the children to the hospital club in Covent Garden to sing for his friends. So I've been in an environment that has been, under-resourced. However, we have made, these children, by not excluding them, by feeding them, we took over the canteen and gave them breakfast, gave them dinner, gave them lunch. They come in on a Saturday to work, by changing the whole culture with the school that I was with, gave them choices. I mean, education for me is about choice, is about helping these children. And, there were times, there's one student, a student called Emmanuel, and he's called Nana, sorry, because Emmanuel Frimpong, the Arsenal footballer, came to our school. Chip, the rapper that was number 2 in the charts with Chris Brown, came to our school. Guy called Nana used to bang on the tables all the time, get kicked out of class. Why are you getting kicked out of class? I'm making beats, miss, I'm making beats. I bump into him, probably 5 years ago, and he said, Miss Coley, I said, Nana, I said, what are you doing? He said, Miss, I'm making beats.
Real beats for money this time.
I said, anyone I know? He said, yes, Miss, Drake.
Oh.
I said, passion fruit Drake, from Canada. He said, Miss, that's my song. I went home, I Googled it.
Oh,
Nana Rogues, songwriter, producer, passion fruit for Drake. It has sold millions, right? And
wow.
that's when we don't exclude, we encourage. I remember going when these kids were being naughty in the playground, going to the shop, I think it was Tempo at the time, and buying a karaoke machine, put it in the ear group and said, right, boys, rap on that. So, there's different ways to do things to engage children. One child, his name was Elijah, loved chicken wings, always at the front of the queue. I'm sitting at home, turning my TV on Channel 4, and there's this program called Peng Life, and he's become a YouTube sensation by going to shops and grading chicken from 1 to 5. And
Oh,
he's got his
yes.
own Channel 4 program.
Wow.
So, dreams, I mean, we used to say our motto was dream it, believe it, reach it. And the children did. And it can happen. So all this stuff around exclusion, around not being able to talk in the line, around this and that, I can't subscribe to it. I can't subscribe to it. And what it's doing to our children, especially after the pandemic, I have to intervene.
Yeah, I understand that because some of those rules are actually quite trivial.
Yeah, draconian, as we
Yeah,
would
I mean,
say.
why
Yeah.
would you say don't talk in a line? You can understand, don't talk in a lesson when the teacher is speaking. If you're lining up, and you're having a conversation, you're not shouting, you're not making a scene, that seems quite draconian. It
I
seems
drove into a car
unreasonable.
park with a parent to deal with an exclusion or into an exclusion meeting. And as I pulled up, it was sort of the end of lunchtime, and I pulled up my car. And as I'm coming out, the head teacher is in the playground, standing on one of those stone tables, like this authoritarian, shouting at these children to stay still, to be quiet. And it's like, seriously, so we've got to have better outcomes for our children. We've got to. When I was at school, it was the best days of my life. I was happy. I had a white blonde-haired primary school teacher who I loved. I loved coming into school. She was so positive. She was so encouraging. We all came from the local estate. I came from the Pembury estate, right? But reading was my passion. I came from a Windrush family, right, that believed that education was the key to being somebody. So I had a library card by the time I was 7. The library was my happy place. And reading, even though we couldn't afford to travel, internationally, and I didn't get on a plane till I was 23, I'd been all around the world because I was an avid reader. I'd been to Bethlehem, I'd been to Narnia, I'd been to Wonderland. There's a man who used to come around my house. This white guy used to come around our house every Friday and knock the door. My mum used to go to the door. This is in the 70s, and give him about £10, which was a lot of money then. I'm thinking, what's she doing that for? What's she paying for? And I found out it was for Google, because back then the Google was 24 books called the Encyclopedia Britannica. And we still have them in our yard. I ain't read it. And it cost thousands.
Yeah, it did.
Our parents believed whatever, by any means necessary, they were going to do what they needed to do. And so be it. So done.
Yeah.
So for me, education was key. I didn't want to be, always want to be a teacher, but I want to be rich.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to interview stars. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be on telly. I like drama. In the 80s, I was blessed to be selected to be one of the presenters of the first ever Black music, gospel music program. People Get Ready.
Get Ready. Yeah, I remember that.
That's my phone. And I turned it off. I have to turn the volume down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, People Get Ready. I remember that.
Yes, I was blessed to be selected to be one of the presenters, myself and John Francis, Bishop John Francis.
Yeah.
The first ever presenters of a Black music program. At that time, we had Club Mix, we had Black on Black. There wasn't no problem. There wasn't many Black programs on TV. It was still the time. Well, it was post us ringing up everybody and saying Black people on TV. But it was big, but I didn't even realize how big it was. We were popping a 5-star hotel. I was, I remember I've still got the scripts from People Get Ready. At that time, we're talking about 1986. I was being paid a couple £1,000 for a show. That's how I bought my first house.
Ooh.
But we were moving and shaking. It went on from 86 to 92. I remember being in the TV Times and Bill Cosby. Am I allowed to say his name? I still like Bill Cosby. I'm sorry. Bill Cosby was on, his picture was right next to mine. And it was like, wow. And from there, I mean, I was a promotions manager of The Voice newspaper. The Voice was big them days. It was the Black newspaper. It was there where I learned that I was Black. I learned our stories. I learned about our community. I learned all these things that were happening. I was in the middle of it. I loved it. I loved being Black. I loved working for a Black company. I was promoted to head of promotions. I did some writing. I wrote Soul Steerings for a period of time. And I then was head of promotions. I remember giving away a golf GTI to a reader, giving away videos with Smiley Culture. It was community.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was there where I recognized there was an issue when it came to Black boys and education and underachievement. And it was there that I, would get the stories in and say to myself, this ain't great. And my love for teaching, what I wanted to do, even though I didn't do it, I said to myself, do you know what? I can't sit here and do all this exciting stuff and our Black boys are suffering. I'm going to get a QTS and go into teaching. And I left The Voice and went and studied for my qualified teacher status and then went into education.
That's amazing, Juliet.
Because I thought I was going to save the world. I thought I was the one that's gonna help all these Black boys. I mean, I did my portion, but that was the drive. After working for The Voice for 7 years, I said, no, I've got to do something to help. And that's where I moved into education.
Well, thank you for doing that. I'm sure there are hundreds of students out there who can say that you affected their lives positively. So thank you for doing that.
I think me and many, many teachers, because people don't realize the sacrifice that you have to make. And I think for me, I did learn the hard way that I saved other people's children. And because I came from quite a good, solid family network, my family would look after my kids. Because I was in school from 6:45. I was up at 5, in school from 6:45. I had 3 children at the time as well. And then I was stayed in school till 8 o'clock. Came back. It was a school that required improvement. So you were there 24/7. My kids were in the staff room on a Saturday when I was teaching children. And I was so all of that, I come home at 8. I'm still marking, still doing strategy when I got to leadership, bed at 2, up at 5. And you're talking about this for a good 10 years and something had to give. And in the end, it was my heart. That's what, that's the reality of what happened. People say, why did you have, because I had a heart attack. And people say, why did you have a heart attack? I know why I had a heart attack. Because I was running on empty. I was doing campaigns, trying to save these children. And it was I only kind of remembered that I had a family. I mean, my marriage suffered because of teaching, because it came before my husband. I've learned my lessons, but it was when I had the heart attack, I remembered I was a mother of 3.
Oh my God.
Then, as you probably heard Romeo's story, that after I had the heart attack, he didn't want to come home. You're going to die. I'm going to live with nanny. And it was like, oh my God. And reality of me being human and recognizing that I, didn't always make the right decisions, even though I wanted to save the world and things like that. I realized that I needed to do something different, something had to change.
It's almost like a sacrifice that you gave.
But it's not just me.
And it wasn't, you didn't have the work-life balance that you needed. Weren't they teaching you about this in your continuous professional days, CPD days? Didn't they tell you about work-life balance?
No, because Ofsted was the big beast. And I remember when I first joined the school, I mean, I was blessed to have had a meteoric rise, because my first year I was nominated as best new teacher in a secondary school. I was selected by the QTS, the Qualified Teachers Agency, to do a video that showed people how to teach English and all the standards. So I was the poster girl. And in my less than my first year, I was promoted as deputy head of year. And before the end of my first year, I was head of year. And I did the round for 5 years. I introduced prom. The kids never had, they had their graduation in the sports hall. And I thought, after 5 years and these kids working so hard, we're doing this in style. We're going to Ali Pali, where they have weddings. And the head teacher said no. And I said, yes. And he said no. And it was at that point where I realized that, you know what, if I'm to make change, I need to be on the leadership team where they're making decisions. I told the children, we met with you, I said, the head teacher says no, but we're going to say yes. Everybody bring your £5. I'm going to slap it on his desk on Friday. And they all bought their £5. Some bought more. And by the end of that week, I went into his office and put down £1,000, about 1,200 on his desk. And I said, yes.
Wow.
I was shocked. And that was the first ever school's prom, graduation and prom, in a prestigious place called the Palace Suite in Alexandra Palace, where people got married, right?
Oh, wow.
And from there, things moved on. So I did a lot of firsts. I led on Ofsted. But doing those things don't come easy.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Doing a campaign like called Value, we did a campaign called Value Life, which was a citizenship campaign where the children did a peace walk and rally against gun and knife crime, because Tottenham, it was ravaged in there. BBC News, this. So the school was getting profile. The children were getting confidence because they were part of campaigns and projects. It's all logged on YouTube where they were making a difference. So even though all of them weren't academic, they were coming out with skills that was going to set them for life. They were coming out with a love for their community. And that was important because for me, a child has to leave school rounded. You know, if they can't get that, at the time it was A star. If they couldn't get that A star, you know, they needed to have skills that were going to set them right within the community. And before I retired, I did a project where I wanted to do a wall in the school where the children who had left, what they'd gone on to become. And what started out as a wall ended up as a corridor, right? And there were children. I remember after having the heart attack, I got a message. There was a little boy called Ricky that I taught, always naughty, always putting him in detention when he was late. Oh, miss, you hate me. Whatever. He messaged me on Facebook and said, Miss Coley, I've heard you've had a heart attack. I'm a thoracic surgeon at the Royal Brompton Hospital.
What?
Would you like me to do your operation? Right.
What did you say?
And you don't see my breasts. No. You know, the school was such that we employed teachers. Children who left became teachers. So my colleagues were children that I taught. The guy who was the bursar, you know, worked with me on establishing the school canteens. We recognized that if we kept the canteen in school, we would make money and the kids would be able to have free food. We wouldn't have to be subservient to contractors. Yeah. And the guy I did that with, I taught him English. And when we disagreed, say, no, Juliet, I said, it's Miss Coley, and I taught you how to spell, so yes. You know, so it was just a privilege to be working with children people that you had taught, that you'd seen them grow and seen them go on to do great things. So yeah, all good.
Can we say the name of the school?
Let's say it's a secondary. It's still Ofsted Outstanding. It's a secondary school in South Tottenham on the borders of Hackney and Tottenham.
Oh, I know it.
You can Google it. You can.
Begins with a G. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. People can search it out.
Yeah. Great place.
Oh, great place. Fantastic. Well done. It sounds to me like you should, or maybe you have done it. I was going to say you should write a book on the best teaching practices that you would suggest, and you're going to say to me you've done it. Yeah. Wow. Look at you.
This book is not. It's my 20-year journey at that school, written in 1 year. So it's called 39 Weeks, which is an academic year, Life Behind the School Gates. and it is the stories of that school and the experiences and the joy, the pain, the sunshine, and yeah. So
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well
yeah.
done. Well, that should be a required text for anybody doing teaching practice, surely.
Well, we're working on it to be a movie. So that's
Ooh.
my next big project, but I've got to get
Oh,
the other little ones out of
wow.
the way. So we're working on that. Someone's working on the screenplay.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, for me, again, with that, my whole teaching journey, I think it was where I was supposed to be. It's brought me to where I am today. But I found that I spent a lot of my time, killing myself practically, like many others do, right? And never getting the top job. So I was invited to speak at the National Education Union a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, I want you to talk about leadership." I said, "I know what I want to talk about," because it was to Black educators, and I wrote a presentation called "Always the Bridesmaid," and it wasn't a surprise, but there were so many Black educators there that were stuck, that were blocked, or had imposter syndrome, and didn't recognize that their skills were building that school to be as good as it is if they weren't getting the benefits. I mean, I was blessed to have been able to be part of that journey, but my head teacher never had a day off, wasn't going to retire for a long time, was happy with the way that the leadership team was, that wasn't very encouraging when it came to us moving on. So I mean, I love the school. The school did great for me and whatever, but I should have felt that I should have moved on to the next stage when I stayed where I was, because I was offered more money, because I was happy there, because I did kind of think like, well, I know the way stuff is done here, it might be done differently. Maybe I can't do what I'm supposed to do. And I wasn't encouraged otherwise, so there are so many Black educators that are always the bridesmaid, always there building, supporting and doing. And then when I got sick, that was the end of that journey. And I still work in schools. I still, support head teachers. I still do this and do that, and think to myself, I could have done that. I could have done that, and many people can. And I just really want to encourage those that are on the leadership team, that are building schools. Sometimes you feel like the children need you, but children everywhere need you. You bond relationships and think that it's only here that you can stay, when there's other children out there that would benefit from your expertise. And like I said, when I was talking about prom, as part of the leadership team, had been that I'd sit in the Monday morning meetings, I'd sit in strategy, I'd make decisions around exclusions and stuff, I'd support year teams, I would look at intervention for children. So I became the chief trustee of the Kai and Prince Foundation, which is the anti-knife crime charity, and I worked with them voluntarily for 11 years. But because Mark Prince is amazing, amazing speaker, he has an amazing influence over Black boys, and I'd called him in. And because I was on the leadership team, I could call him in. I could call Davis from Manhood Academy to come in and talk to our boys, knowing that these are the guys that they will listen to. You don't have to do it traditionally. Mark did it through boxing. David did it through animation and cartoons and superhero characters. So I was on the ground from that perspective. So it was good to be in the leadership team, to be able to say, no, we want this in there. This is going to help our Black boys. This is going to help our C to D grade students. This is going to help X, Y, Z. So I just want to encourage those that are in education, and there's a lot of them, Black teachers in particular, that are on the leadership team, get some coaching, get some training, to build your self-confidence and to know that you can be more than that, what you are, because you will then make even more of a difference when you're in the seat making decisions.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for that. I think you've given quite a few tips already for senior management in terms of how they can improve their schools. So thanks for that. I want to go back now to perhaps near the beginning. You said you were from Windrush parents. So give us an idea of your background from childhood through to your education, through to starting your first job.
Okay, so my grandmother was a Pentecostal minister.
Oh,
So
really?
we come from the New Testament Assembly, and she was a
Oh,
co-pastor with a woman called I.O. Smith,
oh,
who was
yes, yes. Is that
powerhouse.
in Leighton?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
growing up with two women, leading a church, you know, so I never had any kind of boundaries in my head about what women could do and whether you could kick the doors down, because that's what I grew up under. I saw that, so I saw powerful women from an early age. So this is why probably I was a bit more gobby, a bit more I can do this and I can do that. So I grew under that leadership. Church was back in the 70s, Monday to Sunday, it was full on. And it's interesting that the things that I thought I resented about growing up in a Windrush family or a Pentecostal church family, i.e., learning to hand wash, with what the whites and squeaky with your knuckles, learning to cook rice and peas, learning that sex was for marriage.
Mm,
All those things that I thought, whatever, I recognized was actually valuable when I started my first teaching job. So I remember having to refer a 12-year-old, right, to a nurse to be HIV tested because she
mm,
was having sex with somebody at 12. Do you know
mm,
what I mean?
mm,
So all that bring upsy that I had kind of shaped my character, made me what I am today. So I thank God for the strictness. I remember when East Energies be on TV, and if someone started kissing, my granddad would turn the telly off. Not even remote. Get up, walk up, switch it off. We never had remotes them days, because that was badness. So all those things that I thought were so strict and this and that, I thank God for those. I don't have the stories that some people have when they were growing up and being abused or being, this or that. We never went hungry, right?
mm,
But we weren't rich. There
mm.
was meat and two veg. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whether it was corned beef, rice, and something else or whatever. We never went hungry, but we didn't have much money. So I didn't feel poverty. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of love in terms of Jesus, because the family was full of faith. We had to pray. We weren't allowed to clean the house on a Sunday. It had to be all done before that because Sunday was a day of rest. So it was really, really strict. But as I said before, reading was big. Education was big. So even though I grew up on this council estate, I had big dreams. I had the things that I could do. I remember I used to love drama, and I was encouraged at school about to take that on board. But my grandparents didn't like it. It was sin. Do you know what I mean? Wanted to be a
Really?
star. Yeah, I wanted to be a star. I used to do drama in church. I had one of the first ever Pentecostal drama groups called Acid, which was the Association of Christians in Dramatics. I managed two
Wow.
comedians called, I used to go into prisons and perform, youth custody centres. We did the first ever drama production show at a place called the Civic Theatre in Bow, sold out 2,000 seats. And
Wow.
drama wasn't the thing them days, but we were pushing boundaries. Two of the guys in my group became, they were comedians. They were called Jefferson and Whitfield. They were Christian comedians that went on the comic circuit. I ended up managing them, and they were on the comic circuit with Richard Blackwood and Curtis Walker and things like that. So I don't know. I think everything that's happened to me has happened for a reason,
Mm,
even down to having heart surgery and having cancer. Because though being struck by those things, at the time I was struck by those things. I'd done obviously television, I'd done journalism, I'd worked for ITV News, I'd done the whole stuff. By the time it came to the heart attack and the cancer diagnosis, which was 5 years afterwards, it made me think about legacy. It
mm,
made me think about what am I leaving behind. I remember having to get ready for the surgery and clean my house. Do you know what I mean? Top to bottom. I didn't want no one coming in my house and saying this and that. And I found the VHSs of People Get Ready. And
mm.
my kids were saying, "What's that, mum?" And I bought I said, "Oh, I used to be on TV back in the 80s." I
Mhm.
never, it was never on my CV. It was just something that we did for Christ, you know. And I
Yeah.
remember converting them into CDs and putting it on YouTube. So when you can find most of the programs on YouTube, you know, because I
Oh,
put them up there for my
brilliant.
kids in case
Oh,
I didn't make it. And I remember writing lists and saying this, right, my curtains, I want new curtains, this and that. So you think about your life and what you're leaving behind. I kept thinking to myself, I never got to write my book. I never got to do this. What will my kids remember about me? And
yeah.
it was coming out of the heart surgery that I realized that, do you know what? It's time to work on legacy, not just my legacy, but legacy of my family, legacy of my community.
Yeah.
And it was Romeo not wanting to come home because he thought I was going to die. It opened up an opportunity for the first book of my publishing company to happen because I went to the GP and said, my son don't want to come home. What do I do? And they said, give him play therapy, you know, 6 weeks, let him talk about his thoughts and feelings and he'll be fine. And I thought anything. And I used to take him to play therapy. And it was my daughter, probably at the end of week 6, who had read his notes, you know, that basic stuff, you know, I didn't want to go to sleep. I had to pray, you know, just silly things. Not silly things, just simple things. And said to me, Mum, why don't we put in a book? And I thought anything to help him,
Yeah.
anything. And
Yeah.
let's do it properly. And I got a barcode. I got a guy at my school in the art department to design it, all that sort of that stuff. And when we did the first book, Life Without My Mummy, we called it Life Without My Mummy ? You know, and that we sold 200 in the first week. And I thought,
Wow.
wow. And then people were saying, oh, but it was the publishing company, the books was a project for my son. It
Yeah.
was for my son to heal. So the second year, he liked Lego. Let's do something on architecture. My daughter took him around all the buildings in London. The third book, take him wherever you can go for free, and he'd write about it and stuff. And it was by the fourth book, I think it was Hey Black Boy, when we were talking about what you see when you look in the mirror. With the cats looking in the mirror, looking back at a lion, what do you see? And he started to talk about, because I was having problems with my year 8 students. The boys had no value with themselves. They didn't see themselves as leaders, visionaries, kings. And that frustrated me. And this is where the Hey Black Boy project kind of came from. And Romeo wrote that book. And it just kind of, people started saying, where's Hey Black Girl? Where's this? Where's that? And that was the beginning of the publishing company.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to work just with children because they have a story to tell. And to date now, I've worked with over 70 children. I've
Wow,
published 25
70,
books.
70.
Yeah, I've published 25 books. Well, I did one online with children from Ghana. So 19 children from Ghana. I was teaching them over the pandemic. My friend had up and said, please help me. My children are falling behind. And one of the boys heard that I was a publisher. I said, Miss Juliet, we want to write a book. We want to write a book. And I
Fantastic.
crowdfunded that on my birthday and raised 2.5 grand and
Oh,
published their book. Went to Ghana, launched it, and these 19 children were saying, we are authors from Ghana, you know, and what the excitement that I saw with the children who published their books over here, it kind of tripled, quadrupled, just by
oh,
being in that space. And I just went in the corner and bawled. I bawled. All my books, I paid for every single one of them,
yeah,
right? The children get paid to write, and I then give them the books cost so they can make money from the books. So if
yeah,
the
yeah.
book cost me £4 to print, they pay £4, they charge 10. And I've got now entrepreneurs who are selling their books.
Yeah.
Romeo now runs the books of our company and sells all of the books because I own all the books basically
Okay.
and makes money. He was at the National Education Union. We only bought a suitcase and he made £500. I don't pay for his trainers anymore. He
Yeah,
buys them himself.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't need to buy his trainers anymore. And he has to learn that the skill that he has in terms of writing is profitable,
Okay.
can earn you money, you
Yeah.
know, if you put your focus. So yeah, so that's a proud moment working with children, helping them to tell their stories, giving them the confidence to say, I am an author. I taught English. GCSE, it is old, white, So it gives them a something, you know, anytime I see someone open their book and see the excitement and the pride and stuff, you flip that script and you make that journey different from that child.
Well, I must say to the audience that a few months ago, I interviewed this young man called Romeo because I came across him on LinkedIn. He just received his GCSE results and he was upset that he didn't
Oh
get the
God,
top
yeah.
eights and nines. You know, I mean, he still did fairly well, but he wanted the top. And I thought it's nice to see a young person who's ambitious like that. And I contacted him and, you know, we were chatting for a while on LinkedIn. And I said, I see that you've written some books. That's really amazing. Shall we talk about it? Can I do an interview? And he said, yeah. So we had this interview. He mentioned how he started, that his mum was ill and he was very upset about that. At the time, I didn't know it was you, Juliet. You know, that's a really amazing thing because I'd met you through someone else, through another friend, because of a project you were doing with the magazine. And although I'd seen your name about several times, and back in the day, yes, I used to watch People Get Ready as well. So I'd known of you, but I didn't realize you were Romeo's mother. So imagine, you know, just very recently finding out that, oh, Romeo went to an event and he spoke about his mum being in the audience and his mum also speaking. I'm thinking, oh, so these two are mother and son, and I didn't even know that. You know, I mean that's absolutely fascinating and well done.
I'm proud of him, and what I'm proud of is that I have 3 children.
Yeah,
The first 2 are very gifted, very, very gifted. My daughter was reading at 1.5, you
yeah,
know, or whatever. Romeo has to work hard, you know, so anything he does, I'm proud of if he's going to work hard.
yeah,
So it also goes to show that anyone can. You don't have to be. And because of the trauma that he had growing up, we did a lot of extracurricular stuff and whatever, and to give him choices, to give him experiences. So he sits on youth council, you know, he does the whole young markets thing and has been a finalist in there in Stratford-upon-Avon. But he works hard, and if he can, anybody can. Anybody.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a great example for other young people. And I love what you're doing with the children in terms of publishing their books. And what we should say, by the way, to the audience, if they have children who are good at writing, they should contact you. They have a book idea, they should definitely contact you. Get some more.
Another heart attack, another heart attack.
Okay. Well, you've got help now, haven't you? You're not doing it all by yourself, I hope.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. I mean, there's another 100 children out there, I'm sure, who would love for you to publish your books. Yeah. So we'll get the message out. So well
Definitely.
done with that. So in terms of the charity that you're doing now, well done. I think there was a lady called Cheryl Felix. Do you know her?
Yes. She's in
Yeah.
great things with the Black Child agenda.
Yeah, and she's been doing
Yeah.
that for a few years. So she must have been really happy to know what you're doing because it's a big task to be able to work with all these schools and deal with cases which wouldn't normally come to press attention.
No, definitely. We're starting in Hackney because that's where I'm from. That's where the issue is. And that's where we believe that we can institute change. I said before, I'm on the Improving Outcomes Board as well. So I can cross-pollinate what I'm doing. And I just think that sometimes as parents, we just accept what happens to us. I remember one of my friends, his son attended an academy and he had special education needs and he wanted to go to the toilet. And the teacher said, no, you're supposed to go at break and stuff like that. Usually when I'm in school and someone says they want to go to the toilet, even if it's just come from break, I'd say, ask me in 2 minutes. If they still want to go to the toilet, they'll put their hand and say, Miss, I need to go to the toilet. I let them go, right? With these schools where they have rules, he's SEN, he asked to go to the toilet, no. He's put his hand up, can he go to the toilet? No. He wet himself in his seat in the classroom, right? Now you can imagine as a young boy, you know, the friend, he didn't want to get out of the seat, get up, time to get out of the classroom and whatever. The friends are teasing him and whatever. And I said to my friend, what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit down there and just let it ride? No, and I think a lot of us, because we want peace, we don't want to create problems, we always still see sometimes as a Black community, I'll just talk about the Black community, that those that have certain jobs or in authority, they are right. We can't do nothing about it. And I think that we can institute change. We do need to say something if something is not right, if something doesn't sit right with us. And I think we accept what is given to us. We accept our portion. Our parents did that. And well, actually, the next generation down, my daughter and my other son, they ain't putting up with foolishness, but they may do it in the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? But we have to learn how to institute change properly. Let people listen to us. And that's what that's about. And on the flip side, when we want to complain about something, try to be part of the solution. So after George Floyd and being a mother of 2 sons and knowing what happened with him, I wanted to do something, but I thought marching is something that I can't really do because I had my health challenges, we were in COVID and whatever. What can I do? And I think I read about the Mayor of London doing this project, and this project's been going for about 15 years, called the Independent Custody Visitors. And what happens is you get trained and you turn up to police stations with a partner unannounced and say, I've come to check your custody suite. And they have to let you in. And you go around and you talk to everybody that is locked up in custody. How are you? Have you been fed? Have you been treated? Have you been given your solicitor option to have a solicitor? Do you know why you're here? Blah, blah. And you write down the report and you type it back up and send it to MOPAC, which is the Mayor of London's policing section. And I've been doing that for 3 years, right? Oh. Because at least I know, that if somebody that looks like me is arrested, I'm rocking up there because sometimes I say to my partner, let's do 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's do so-and-so, so-and-so. And I rock up there, show them my pass, go in, and I talk to everybody. At the end, I say to the sergeant, so-and-so says he hasn't been given nothing to eat. Why? So-and-so says he hasn't worked. And if I've got a concern, I press the flag button and then it comes back. Someone goes back and follows it up. So and anybody can be that. Anybody can do that. So as a community, we have to safeguard what's going on amongst our people. Stop complaining, stop moaning, be school governors, right? I'm sitting in these meetings, exclusion meetings, and these school governors do not look like me. They do not look like my children. And they're making decisions and running schools, right? Not having an understanding of what our children are going through. So I've done the school governor bit for 10 years. I've done the chief trustee for charities 11 years. I'm doing the ICV stuff. And those opportunities are open for lots of people. Anybody, where are our judges when our children are going stand in front of the judge who makes that decision, in a court, when it's one of the 3 that say, yeah, we're going to community service or XYZ. Where are they that look like us? I went to the Old Bailey the other day to support somebody, and I sat down in the space, and it was like a conveyor belt with Black boys. And when I say that, Old Bailey, a conveyor belt with Black boys, and I'm talking about they're not even charging them individually, they're putting them 4 on the bench at a time, 4 at a time, to charge them wholesale for stuff. And I'm not saying that all of these boys are good and haven't done anything bad, but the way the system is, I sat and listened to the judge summing up. I sat and it seemed very biased. I looked at the jury. The jury may be picked from random people, right? But not all of them look like us. And ones that do look like us don't live in our areas and our spaces and understand what's going on. You understand? They now can give people's previous convictions. So if you did something wrong when you were 16, right, they're dragging that up in a case that might not even involve you, right, when you're 27, right, and judgments are made according to that. So I'm just sitting there saying that we have to be safeguarders or gatekeepers of our own communities. And on the flip side is to make sure our stories are told, legacy. So I said, I had a heart attack, and then 5 years later was diagnosed with bile cancer, which really said to me, I'm done with school, right? But it was an opportunity to look at legacy. And I don't want anybody to have a heart attack and cancer before you start looking at your legacy, but it made me think about what is important. Hence why I've written books. I've written a book called The Legacy File, which is this book here. And it's like a baby book where were you born? What are your parents' names? What did they do? What was your favorite this? Who are your friends? And it's got pictures and you actually, I encourage youngers to meet their elders and write the story. Just write it down. And I've made it so posh that once it's written down, the pictures are stuck in there, put it on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
That somebody will be able to read about Grandma Bailey.
Fantastic.
Never met Grandma Bailey. That's what she looks like. And I put a bit in the book, a back bit in the book where you can put a USB and have the video of Grandma Bailey. That's what she looked like. That's what she sounded like, right? Keep our legacies. I did one of Windrush women, past and present, who are pillars of the Black Church, Mothers of Zion. And it talks about these great women. My friend's mum died. And I sat at the Thanksgiving service and heard the great things she'd done. And I thought, I know so many women like that. You know, so I asked people, I gave the questionnaire out, asked people, I want your parents' stories. The Mothers of Zion, who when I was young, told me to put your skirt on, fix yourself up, cover your chest, you know, whatever, and made me what I was. And we've got some great women. Look at this woman here, you know. This is John Francis' mother. Bishop John Francis' mother.
Yes,
she was like diagnosed with terminal cancer before he was born. And the church prayed for her. She went back to the doctor, it was gone. I remember these stories when I was little of healing. And she never got better. We would never know John Francis. He's head of Ruach Ministries, one of the biggest Black churches in the UK. You know, so I did another one. There we go. Sorry, I'm going on. Do you know what I mean? Another one. This one here is called Craven the Nyamin Jankro, right? I'm working in primary schools. I volunteered in a school that was required improvement from Ofsted. Black head teacher. And he told me, you know, when I found out there was a school in Hackney with a Rastaman head teacher, right?
Really?
That was required improvement. Yes, I said to myself, how did that happen? How can you, Hackney, run a school and it requires improvement? No, I emailed him and said, listen, I've led Ofsted when I was at my school. You want help? Give me a call. In less than half an hour, the man called me. Come down, Juliet. I came down. I then spent a year there, 1 day a week. I did a breakfast club with them, the boys. I did a Windrush production. I worked with the 4 schools and we put on last year at the Hackney Empire, a Windrush production. I worked with the teachers, the head of music and whatever. And again, you know, it's not just, I'm an English teacher, but it's not just maths, English and science that's going to shape those children. It is the experiences that they have. When I saw these children walk on the stage at the Hackney Empire and look out into the crowd and see the excitement on their faces, the exhilaration, they will never forget that moment. Never forget that moment. And you know what Ofsted did? Ofsted, right? The day after the production, the day of the production, they contacted the school and said, we're coming tomorrow to look at your school. We're doing this big, massive production, the Hackney Empire. But he was ready. He was ready, right? And came out of requires improvement. So we have to support our own. This book I said before was when I asked children, what is the national dish of the country your grandma comes from? I don't know. Only the Jamaican children knew ackee and saltfish, and the Bajan children knew flying fish and cuckoo. Everybody else didn't know. So I wrote this book about this bird called Craven. He's a little jankro, and he flies to 10 different Caribbean islands to eat their national dish. Yeah. And it's the dish, the capital city, the flag, and the times of the day. So there's 4 points of learning for these children. If we don't write them, who's going to write them? You know what inspired me with this? The Very Hungry Caterpillar, right? And we all know that. But you know what? Learn the national dish, learn your flag, read Kriyav and the Nyamin Jankro. So we have to be keepers of our own legacy. We have to tell our stories. So that's so important. And it's not down to one person, right? Each one teach one. You know, everybody has their role and their responsibility to do. I can only do what I can do, but there is so much. Our community is so talented. There's so much that we can all do and give.
Well,
And
it sounds like you yourself are so talented. I mean, you could be coming out with a new book a month or something, whether it's children's books or adult books. I love the books that you've shown us just now, and I'm going to put links to them in the underneath the video so people can buy. You know, put them on your Christmas list, people. Buy them for the people as well. You know,
please.
Absolutely. And I think your talent also is in playwriting. I mean, you put on productions. You should keep doing this.
Only one of me, only one of me. So the whole thing is about teaching. This whole thing is about sharing that experience. So with the books now, my godchildren, right? They said, "Oh, we want books for our children." I said, "I will show you how to do that." Because it's not about keeping all of that stuff to yourself. So my two godchildren now, their children are writing books, but they are, you know, doing the whole process of what I do. One of them today is up for an award, a True Little Hero Award tonight, you know, for her work in publishing. She's 13. It will change her life. Romeo got his first award at 8. It changed his life. He's actually now hosting this event called the Hero Award. And I'm saying that it seems little sometimes. That's why it's so important in our community and people are doing to celebrate our young people. I paid for every single one of those books. And it's about $2,000, $2,500 a book because it's quality. You want it to be something that represents us. Last summer, I said before, I put on the Children's Black Book Fair. I wanted an event that celebrated representation of Black children that write, Black children in books. I applied for a grant for that event. I was told no, it went to somewhere else. That wasn't going to stop me from doing what I wanted to do. So I said, oh, yeah, I went to the library and I said, you don't want to give me money, Hackney, give me the library free. Do you know what I mean? I will pay for everything. It cost me $4,500 to put that event on, right? Everybody's excited. This time round, I ain't paying. Do you know what I mean? You want to be involved? Show me the color of your money. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes you have to make that step and do and show and let them get excited about what you're doing, you know, in order for it to come to pass. So it is about taking risks sometimes, but I'll take risks in my community because you know what? I know that it will live on. This, you know, what we're doing will continue to help and support children. So maybe I may not be in the classroom, and of our community may not be in the classroom, you know, but you still can do. Last week I went to an event that honored Diane Abbott, and she is a groundbreaker. You know what I mean? She's done great things. She's a history maker, and it was just an event where people said things to her about her, and just to see her shine, smile. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying sometimes we don't look after our own either.
And she's your MP in Hackney, isn't she?
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic. So it's lovely to celebrate the things that our people are doing and not take that for granted. Yeah. And encourage those who are coming up as well.
So do you have a central point, like a website where people can go and get advice on all these things that you've discussed today? Yeah.
So we're creating the campaign website about the exclusions or no need to exclude, which is going to be called Educating Hackney. I assume it'd be educatinghackney.co.uk, but that's at the moment being drafted. The books are on a website called younglitstars.com, and I can give you all those information about that. The stuff that I've done with the schools are all on YouTube. Value Life, Gladesmore School is our anti-knife crime project, and Everybody Dreams is also, Gladesmore School is also on there, a documentary of how we
You told us school in the end then.
It was a great school, great teachers, great kids. and it shaped me. It was my, you know, it was my journey through. So yeah.
Yeah, well done. Well, all the websites that you've mentioned, if you just send them through to me, I will put them on. And we'll also add pictures of some of the activities that you've done as well. And you said you've got some stuff on YouTube, so we'll put a link to those too.
Yeah, I've got, yeah.
So well done. Thank you for what you have done. Now, tell me, from the point of view of the health challenges you had over the years, could you give people advice in terms of how did you deal with the health challenges? How would you say to people, let's try and prevent certain things? And if you do happen to get certain things, how should they actually proceed to help themselves get better?
Okay. I've never been sick up until the age of 40. You know, if I took a day off work, it was to go shopping, not even to be ill, as you do sometimes, but never been sick. But have taken my health for granted. I just thought that, you know, you do what you do. I never ate badly, even though I love cakes and sweets and Caribbean food and whatever. And my first challenging illness was having pneumonia. I remember getting soaked in the rain one day, didn't think nothing of it. And I was on my way to Tunisia for Christmas with my family. And I had this cold I couldn't shake off. I went to A&E in London, and they said, oh, you just got a cold, don't worry about it. But I felt chills, I didn't feel great. And we flew out the next day to Tunisia. And that afternoon, as we landed, I collapsed and was rushed to hospital in Tunisia. I believe if I was in the UK, I would have died, because they would have just not taken it seriously. But because I was a British national out in Tunisia, they told me I had pneumonia, I had Crohn's disease, just through the checkups and stuff like that. And I was pregnant at the same time.
Oh.
And with Romeo. And they then fought for my life. There was a time that I got put down to ITU, saying that there's nothing more they can do for me. And I remember my mum calling her friends and saying, pray, 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 pray. And I remember being in ITU, which is a funny ITU, which is like a circle in this country. And people visit you by looking in the window from the outside. And every time someone would come in, like a doctor would come into this circle, he'd open the door and a light would shine. It looked like the light, and he'd take out a dead body. And it got to the point where I had to bawl and scream and say, get me out of here, get me out of here. I'm definitely gonna die or whatever. And because I created so much fuss, they brought me back upstairs. But they treated me for 2 weeks. I was on holiday in Tunisia, and I was 2 weeks in the hospital. They gave me intensive antibiotics and whatever. And they wheeled me from the hospital to the plane. And from the plane, I went back. I was taken straight to another hospital. But I survived. And that was the first time I'd had a really bad health challenge. Then the heart attack, I told you before, my journey of up early in school, you know, leave school late, doing work, going to bed at 2, up at 5.
Where did it happen?
And that, when? 10 years ago.
Where did it happen?
Yeah.
Where did you have that?
The heart attack.
Yeah. Where were you?
Do you know what? It wasn't a conventional, and you know, the classic movie heart attack. I was driving on the A12. And I felt a pain in my chest and a pain in my right arm while I was driving. And I thought I was having a stroke. I kept saying to myself, ABC, ABC, what does ABC stand? You know, the television advert. Couldn't remember what it stood for. But I in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have thought a young black girl, 48, having a heart attack. So in my mind, I thought I was having a stroke. And I just was saying while I was driving, God, if you're going to kill me, don't kill me on the motorway, please. Kill me in my house with my kids. Do you know what I mean? I was driving, I was breathless. I was even vomiting while I was driving. Wow. And when I pulled over at my house, it stopped. And I walked into my house and I laid across my bed and it stopped. So I remember I thought I was having a stroke. And then the next day I had a really important meeting at a school with a head teacher about a partnership. And I got up and I went to that meeting. Wow. And every time I walked up the stairs, it felt like I was climbing a mountain. And I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, and blah, blah, blah. And that weekend was Romeo's birthday. It was I think it was his third, but I can't remember. It was his birthday. And I promised to take him to Disney on Ice. So I said, I can't go to the hospital until I take him on Disney.
Oh,
That is what Black people do. And
yeah.
I remember the Sunday, I couldn't take him to Disney on Ice, couldn't get out of the bed the Saturday. And the Sunday, my mum said, you best go to the hospital now, or I'm not talking to you anymore. So my aunt took me to A&E, and I was still kind of decapitated. I got there, and there was about probably 40 people before me. And I said, oh, I can't do this. And she said, look, just go to triage, see what they say, and take it from there. And I went to triage, and I said, Mum was hurting me, blah, blah, blah. And I had these 40 people. She took me straight away in, and then the doctor came and said, you had a heart attack. I had a heart attack. And I had to laugh, because I thought, are you for real? And then they blue lighted me to Barts, or one of the hospital, the London Chest Hospital, and they said that I needed quadruple bypass surgery.
Woo!
So less than a year later, I had quadruple bypass surgery, and that's when I actually decided I wasn't going back to school. That was it. But my head came around my house, begged me to come back, offered me more money, less days, and I said, yeah, all right then. I went back to school. And then 5 years later, after that, I was having chest problems again. I had a colonoscopy. And then the next day, they rang me while I was in my office at school saying, you need to come to the hospital tomorrow. And I was saying, something's wrong, you know, and my aunt saying, no, why would they say tomorrow? And I went down there and they told me I've got bowel cancer and they're going to have to take out my intestines.
What?
It was like, yeah. So at that point, it was like, do you know what? I'm so done. I'm so done. But it was after the heart surgery that I realized about legacy. I said before, getting prepared for that operation, knowing that I may never wake up, knowing that this is me, and just made me start to think about, you know, my legacy, and then even more so with Windrush, you know, 70 and 75 and whatever, about my children's legacy as well, about their grandparents. And it was only that, I mean, Romeo started to, because he's saying, Mum, I'm not cute anymore to write books. Do you know what I mean? There's cute people. Can I train? So he's been training people. And last summer, he trained 4 primary school boys in writing this book called Hey Black Boy, Windrush Special. And they researched Windrush heroes. And he in the book, we have somebody that is personal, who's a hero that's personal to one of the authors. And Romeo wrote about his great granddad, who's my granddad. And when he went and did the research, I didn't know that my granddad's dad fought in World War II, ended up with PSTD, you know, and my uncle's got the medal. I didn't realize that my granddad qualified as a tailor in Jermyn Street, which is next to Savile Row. He used to make really good suits. I never knew he had any quality. He worked for London Transport. He worked for the trains for like 30 years. I didn't realize that was, you know, a skill that he had. So again, it's those stories that will die with these people. There's a saying that when an ancestor dies, a library burns down, right? So we want that library to burn down, and we don't have that information. So it's more than now my story. It's other people's stories, you know, which are great. I interviewed a woman for a magazine called Exodus, which was an anniversary issue. And she told me, and she goes to my church. She sits at the corner by the pew, can be sometimes a bit stern, but you don't know these people's stories. Yeah. She was a butler. And Chris Blackwell, who owns Island Records, his mum used to live in the UK behind the Royal Albert Hall, and she was her butler. She came to England to look after his mum and lived behind the Royal Albert Hall and hosted dinners for Vivian Leigh, who was in Gone with the Wind, Noel Coward, who wrote all those plays, and lived a good, posh life. And you look at these people, you don't know, there are so many stories within them. So you need to write stories.
Yeah, it's good what you're doing in terms of really getting that legacy out there. So thanks for that. So tell me, after you had the heart attack, did you slow down at school? Did you start taking a more balanced life?
After I had the heart attack, I started to slow down at school because I was tempted back into school with more money and less days. And I
Oh,
started off doing 3 days a week from 9 till 12. And that was it. And then what happened was one of the teachers went on, no, one of the line managers went on maternity leave. And it was a subject that I taught, which was English. And English is one of, it's the core subject's always tough when you're trying to get results and stuff like that. And the head of department left. So there was no head of department, no line manager. And I stepped in to be the head of department and the line manager. So it just went back to how it was, to the point where at the time as well, Michael Gove, in English, you have a speaking element, which is like 30% of your grade. Yeah. And Michael Gove decided he's taking that away. Yeah. So in order for us to benefit, I then had to enter all these children for their exams early. Yeah. Change the exam board, do this, do that, which took a lot of effort. It worked out in the end, but then it takes its toll, doesn't it? So
yeah. And then when you had your second illness, did you decide to leave teaching altogether?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. By the second one, and it being cancer, because there's cancer in my family. When I had the heart attack and heart surgery, it didn't really affect me as much because I knew that my family suffered from cancer. My grandma died from cancer. My aunt died from cancer. My uncle died from cancer. So it wasn't that scary. When I was struck with cancer now, it was like, oh, because of my family history, because of whatever. And it made me think, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't wind down. You didn't stop it. Yeah. So it made me think again differently. So I made that decision that it was time to hang up my...
I'm glad you're still here because I think there's still a lot of work for you to do. So God saved you for a reason.
Well, I've just created with my daughter a Christian board game called the Living Word Game.
Fantastic.
And we have done the prototype and we are going to do some investment nights. So it's a journey from Genesis to Revelations. It's called the Living Word Game. And I'll give you the link to put it up so people can have a look at that. So that's our next.
Because you're multi-talented and you are an activist, you're a go-getter, you think of things, you make things happen. You have so many great ideas and your experiences are valuable for current teachers. So I hope that they're calling you in to do coaching, consultancy, speaking at education events, because your knowledge is valuable for people who are in the profession, but also valuable for parents who may be struggling with their teens at home. You may have tips that you can help them deal with those troublesome pupils.
Do you know what? I think, again, I said this thing about each one teach one. And legacy is not about you doing it yourself. It's about leaving behind something so somebody else can take up the baton. So I have been kind of working with people, not riding solo. So the things that I've done, I'm doing, or working with other people to do can continue. And that's what success is about. That's what legacy is about. So it isn't about, I said before, with the books, right? Now, Romeo is training people. He knows how to
it's brilliant.
And again, with my godchildren, with the activism and stuff, I work as part of a team. Do you know what I mean? We've been invited into academies where children are on the last chance saloon, and one will mentor, one will deal with parents. I will go and observe that child in that school setting and make some recommendations for a report. And I will share that and show people how to do that. So a lot of my time now is spent with sharing and showing and just kind of explaining and whatever, because no man is an island. No man is an island. And it is, again, about showing and teaching and sharing. And that's the way we are stronger as a community.
And
So yeah,
thank you so much for what you do. You know, you are a living legacy in yourself, and you've actually got awards as well for your work, haven't you?
they're at my mum's house. You know why? Because without her, I couldn't. So
Oh,
most of my awards are at a house. And again, it isn't, no man is an island. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes to have great, again, the stuff that I did in schools, the MBE that we got, the this, to that, and whatever else it is, it was a team effort.
mm,
Yes, I can coordinate. Yes, I can recognize. Yes, I can say this. But there was somebody who produced that track. There was somebody who did this, someone who did that. And
mm.
sometimes it's not always the face of
Yeah,
what you're doing,
yeah.
which is quite sad. I mean, I've had that experience myself. So again, you know, a lot of those awards are not down to just, you know, Superwoman. It is down to a collective effort that's been made.
Well,
And
you're being very self-effacing, very humble about everything.
no, it's the truth. It's
But to be
absolutely
honest,
true.
it takes a leader to get some of these things done. And if it hadn't been your idea and your oomph, your drive, it wouldn't have happened. So I want to say thank you very much and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
All right, then. It's nice to meet you again, Juliet, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.